Hello everyone, this is Avery Parkinson with the Member Services team, and I'm here to walk you through collecting DNA samples from your Angus animals. So members can submit DNA samples in 4 different ways. All 4 ways give the same sample information and results. So you're going to want to select what works best for you and your operation. The first method is hair. This is hair from the tail switch, and it must be affixed to a hair card. There are also blood, which can be done on blood cards, TSUs, which are tissue sampling units, and semen straws as well. The first method for sampling your animals is the Allflex tissue sampling unit, also known as the TSU. TSUs are fast and convenient. TSUs should be stored at room temperature prior to use. Try not to expose unused TSUs to extreme heat or cold. And once the TSU is used, store it at room temperature and submit to the lab as soon as possible. Please don't use a TSU if it's cracked and dried out. If you are interested in using TSUs, they can be ordered from our office. They are $30 for a box of 10. Along with the TSU being submitted to the lab, you will need to submit an Excel document. This Excel document will need to have the tattoo of the animal with its corresponding TSU barcode. Once you've created this document, please email to us so we can forward it on to the lab for you. If you need a template Excel document, please contact us and we'd be glad to send one your way. First, you will need to load a TSU into the applicator gun. So start by removing a TSU punch from the packaging. Punches should be assembled as one piece. If they have come apart, please reassemble. Insert the punch into the tissue applicator as shown. Please clip to lock punch into the device. Carefully squeeze the applicator handles together, guiding the punch tip into place if necessary. When fully seated, the gun bolt will rest tightly against the red plastic clip. Remove the red plastic clip by pulling it outward. Take care not to cut fingers on the metal cutter. It is very, very sharp. Once that TSU is loaded in the gun, it is now sampling time. Slide the gun over the ear and position the cutter approximately 2.5 centimeters from the edge of the ear, taking care to avoid any obvious veins and ridges. Squeeze handles together to take a sample and then release to free the ear. Try to do this in one swift fluid motion. Move with the animal and don't fight its movements. Remove the punch from the device. Check that sampling has been successful. If not, discard the sample and resample with a new punch. Remove the used cutter from the applicator by pulling the handles apart. This will loosen the cutter. Discard safely. Caution, the cutter is very, very sharp. The next method you can use is hair. If you prefer to submit hair samples, you can do so by affixing the hair samples to a hair card. Hair cards can be purchased at our office and they are $5 for a package of 10. So how do you use the hair card? Pull, do not cut hair from the tail switch, not the tail head. Pull hair in the opposite direction from which the hair is laying. This results in less breakage than pulling straight out from the tail. Make sure the hair is free of fecal material and dirt. Roots must be clearly visible. We ask that you collect at least 40 to 50 hairs from each animal. And for animals younger than 3 months, blood is recommended since hair roots will likely not be visible. Open the collector and peel back the plastic cover. Insert the root end of hairs in the middle of the collector. Seal the plastic cover over the hair and then close the collector cover tab. Trim excess hair extending from the collector. Write animal ID and other information in the space provided. When you are ready to submit to the lab, please take the hair card with the DNA paperwork you've received from our office and mail to Neogen, Canada. The next sample collection technique is using blood cards. Blood cards can be purchased from the office and are $2.50 for a package of 10. So how do you use a blood card? Appropriately restrain the animal. Locate a blood vessel visually or by palpation. Clean the area so the sample is not contaminated with dirt or manure. Use a clean needle or lancet for every animal. Blood can also be sampled with a syringe or blood tube from the vein on the underside of the tail. This may be easier than sampling blood from an ear vein that is covered with long, thick hair. Fill the circle on the collector portion of the collection card by allowing the blood to drip or squirt onto the card. Do not wipe the needle, ear, or tail on the collection card. Discard the needle in an appropriate disposal container. Before placing blood drops on blood cards, write the name and tattoo of the animal on the spaces provided. Of importance, please let the card sit open and air dry before closing the cover flap. If you do not do this, it will allow mold to develop and the sample can become useless. It is important to ensure you send a quality sample that is labeled correctly. You must ensure that the sample is submitted with the appropriate DNA paperwork that is sent to you from our office. If you do not submit a sample with the paperwork from our office, you will incur a $54 per sample charge. So what is important is that you have both sufficient sample and a quality sample. For hair cards, you want to make sure that there's at least 50 visible hair roots and that the sample is not dirty. For tissue sample units, TSUs, you want to make sure that there's tissue, not just hair, visible in the TSU. You also want to make sure that there's no cracked TSUs and that you haven't exposed it to extreme heat, for example. On blood cards, you want to make sure that the blood card is saturated and that you have allowed time for it to fully dry. If a blood card is moldy, you will not be able to use the sample. For semen samples, they do not need to be submitted frozen. They can be thawed out. If you want to make sure that there's not a goopy mess in the envelope once you've submitted it to the lab, you can try putting a semen straw inside a pen case, an empty pen case. This will help provide some structure to it. Along with being sufficient and the quality of the sample, you also need to properly identify each sample. This includes putting your tattoo and or the ID number of each animal that the sample belongs to on the appropriate sample that you have done and submitting it with the DNA paperwork that has been provided to you from our office. Some frequently asked questions we receive regarding DNA sampling are: 1. Can I submit multiple samples on one hair card? Please do not put multiple samples on one hair card. Put each individual sample on its own hair card and label it clearly with its tattoo and or ID number. Multiple samples can be mailed together but must be individually packaged. 2. Why is there an additional $4 fee for loose hair? There's an additional $4 fee for loose hair from Neogen Canada. This includes any hair sample submitted that is not on a hair card. This is because loose hair causes delays in testing and increases the chances of errors. Please help us assist Neogen Canada in having efficient turnaround times by using hair cards. 3. What is the best way to identify my TSU? The best way to identify your TSU is to create a spreadsheet with the animal's tattoo and corresponding TSU barcode. If you would like, we can send you the template to fill out. You will be able to keep a copy for yourself as well as send to our office and the lab. You can also put the tattoo of the animal on the box by each sample. 4. Will I get different results based on the type of sample? No, each sample will provide the same DNA result. Different samples may have a larger quantity of DNA, allowing it to be stored for more testing in the future, but each method will result in the same result. 5. Will I get a different result based on the quality of the sample? Potentially. If the sample is a poor quality sample, you may not get results returned, which will result in an unfit sample. This will then require you to set up a brand new DNA test and a new sample to be submitted to the lab. 6. How long can I store my DNA samples? As long as you store your samples correctly as per the instructions provided, you will be able to keep them for a significant length of time. If you're concerned about storing them properly, you can always set up a test and send the samples to Neogen Canada for testing right away. 7. Is there a fee for sending my DNA samples to the lab without first requesting a test? Yes, you will be charged $54 for samples submitted to the lab without the animal first being set up for a test. This $54 charge can also be charged if you have not recorded the sample prior, mislabeling a sample, not providing a TSU list, and for various other reasons. For this and more information, please check out our website, cdangus.ca, under DNA test requests for the most up-to-date process, additional fee charges, and anything else that's regarding DNA test requests.